All right, so this is day one of not traveling. So, other than the 2 days of travel, this is my first day in the Philippines. That was the early morn before the sun was up, and this is me still under the delusion that I was going to do 400 push-ups a day in lieu of working out at the gym, which this may actually record my last push-up, as you just witnessed, and perhaps never to do again on this trip, that is. So day one of arriving in the Philippines also happened to be day one of my open water certification course, scuba diving, and I'm checking my hair, and I'm brimming with excitement, as you can see. This is the crew who, for the next 2 days, I'll be spending time with, nearly dying with, meeting lovers and friends, meeting enemies, actually, too. So on this day, I did not do a lot of recording. As you can see, it's already lunchtime. I was very petrified and scared and focused on the task at hand, so I just didn't have a lot of forethought, or a lot of this, presence of mind to be documenting day one. But as my scuba diving skills increase, I actually, basically the next day on, I record pretty much a lot of the underwater and a lot of the onboard footage. A lot of these people you end up becoming friends with and hanging out with, like that guy right there. I actually went out to party with. He's a local Filipino. So this is actually after day one. So that was all the recording I did of the scuba training. This is just roaming around where I am, El Nido in the Philippines, going down some back alleys, getting the steps in. And so this is kind of the town area. Getting some street food and having these dogs follow me, which I actually did give them probably the rest of that. And after following me for 5 minutes, begging for food, I put it on the ground and they just didn't eat it. They just went, nah. Gulliman was a good beverage. I have no idea what it was, but I went back there basically every night while I was in El Nido. I was in El Nido for, 4 or 5 nights. Okay, so this is day 2 of my open water certification course. And there's my instructor right there, which he was approaching me. And actually he was giving me advice to get this underwater case so that I could actually bring my GoPro underwater. So I borrowed one from the dive shop. We're going out to this small boat, the whole crew, and then this takes us to the bigger dive boat. It's really cloudy, you can see, but that's kind of a good thing because we're out on the boat all day getting sunburnt. Checking the hair, as always. The GoPro that I was using has this front camera, and I don't know if I knew that when I bought it. It's not a bad thing, I guess, but just makes me look at myself, I guess. Realize that my hair doesn't look good. Peering off, pondering. I think, so I should start talking about the diving process. Learning how to dive. I was not prepared or researched or ready for the undertaking, I guess. I I very much underestimated the sheer difficulty, for one thing, but more importantly than that, the horror, the terror, and the fear that I would be putting myself through during this process. I just didn't ever stop to consider how terrifying it would be, which in some ways might have been a good way to go about it, but might have not been. I didn't understand the complexities or the all the different aspects of scuba diving that complicate things that I just had no idea about. I thought it was just a simple thing. And once you have a grasp on everything, it is simple, but yeah, I mean, just the idea of breathing through your mouth through a tube while you're underwater is far more daunting than I thought it was going to be. I mean, I was under the impression almost immediately after going underwater, submerged for the first time, that I would never see the light of day once again. I would never come out alive. I was completely at peace with the fact that I was now going to die almost immediately. And that fear did go away after about day 2. But it didn't help that there's all these... So when you're getting your open water certification, you have to perform all these tasks, which are very not the kind of things you want to be doing when you're not even used to being underwater scuba diving. So like, for example, you have to take off your mask and swim for 10 meters or something without your mask, and then put your mask back on. Like, that's one. And then you have to clear your mask with water. Underwater, you have to do that. You have to simulate an out of air situation where you have to get your buddy's backup air supply and ascend to the surface. You have to practice taking off your entire BCD and putting it back on while you're underwater. You at one point, your instructor turns off your gas so that you understand what it feels like to run out of air. And then you have to signal that you're out of air, and then your buddy has to give you his backup regulator. Like, there's all these terrifying things. Okay, so this is some of the first footage of underwater, and I'm just gonna be embarrassed by my lack of poise, I guess. I didn't know this at the time, but like now watching me, I know that I look like a noob scuba diver. Like, I'm moving my hands, I'm like touching the bottom. I have no idea what I'm doing. This is brand new, and it's way more to it than you might think. Like, you're adjusting your buoyancy, or you have weights around your waist, which feels weird jumping into water with weights on. But here's a turtle. This is some, let's see, that's me and my dive buddy, and then there's another group right there. And everything looks way cooler than this in real life. Just the coloring and everything. I guess that was pretty awesome. This is like, my second day of diving, and there's these kind of things we're seeing. I mean, he's moving his arms. Okay, this one's really bad, actually. So this is, I'm descending, and then I give him the, okay, success, and then I start floating back up, and I'm not realizing it really, and then he's signaling, like, go down, because, like, right now I'm, like, getting the bends, potentially, and I don't, and I'm like, oh, wait, how do I go down? And I, like, exhale, and that's enough to like kind of bring me down. So like this is just embarrassing like noob scuba footage, which I will admit to so that others don't make fun of me. By the next dive, I'm a professional, so, you know. This was the only time I ever wore a snorkel while diving. I don't know why, but you wear a snorkel while you're getting your open water certificate. I guess it's like, maybe it's proper procedure that kind of just the rest of the dive excursions don't deem necessary. But this is kind of like learning, so maybe they do all the proper gear, but it kind of just gets in the way. I think I took a snapshot of that, a screenshot of that, and kind of a cool picture. So like this is way more colorful in real life and everything looks awesome. And just this, there's a turtle floating way up near the surface. I don't know how deep this is, but like open water certified divers are allowed to go to 18 meters. And that is way deeper than I expected it to be. At least it feels way deeper. And at this point in my experience, which is 2 days, I'm vacillating back and forth between sheer panic and horror, and back to amazement and, you know, blissness. So it's just like, depending on what I'm thinking about, it's very odd, and I'm constantly assuming that I'll die. I'm also constantly vacillating back and forth between, once I resurface from this, I will never, ever, ever do this again or look at water again. And to, this is what I want to do forever until I die, like for the rest of my life. This is the coolest thing in the world. So after this certification course, these extreme, you know, delusions aren't nearly as prominent. You know, I was chill, as a chill guy could be, and but I will say there was one time where I did have kind of a freak out later on, which I'm sure I'll cover some of that and explain it more. But I am amazed by the air consumption. So whenever I had like this, my freak out, which I will go into depth about later, it made it to where I started breathing so hard that my air went down so fast that I kind of did have to make, like, not an emergency ascent or anything like that, but I definitely had to go up more quickly than planned, and I'll talk about that later. Just look how awesome this is. It's like, I don't know if there's mushrooms in the ocean, but there's a lot of things that look like mushrooms in the ocean. So I get someone else has my GoPro at this point, obviously, because that was just me, not someone who looks like me. I really like those. What are they doing, by the way? I have no idea. Look, there's more like mushroom looking stuff. Like, a lot of this stuff looks like mushrooms to me. And it might be, I don't know. Not looking very cool. My, like, underwater technique improves right away because I watch, like, you know, his technique is also terrible because he's new as well. And I didn't even think about, like, technique at this point. I didn't know there was any such thing. But once I became conscious of that, I, you know, stopped moving my arms around so much and stopped, like, you know, it's kind of just like etiquette not to, like, kick the ground. It's and that, like, brings up a bunch of dust and makes it harder to see and visibility and stuff. Interestingly, and potentially the reason why I was so freaked out off and on throughout this course was that on the plane here from Texas, I watched a, like, diving horror story that was a movie on the plane. Can't remember what it was called, but it was a movie about a girl who gets trapped deep underwater, and the whole movie is, like, her friend trying to, like, save her, and it's seemed like a bad idea to watch that right before scuba diving for the first time. Look how big, by the way, this fish is. It's deceivingly small from right here, but then when we get closer to it, you kind of see how big it is. Like, that's, like, the size of, like, from my head to my, like, waist, I would say. We both look so noobed out right now, by the way. By the way, my GoPro at this time was set to a mode where it's, like, horizontally locked, and I kind of didn't realize that. So some of this footage is horizontal widescreen and some of it is vertical, because depending on, there's a picture, I don't know, okay, but see, like, right now it just went to a vertical, and that just is because I unfortunately had the camera in this vertical, or in this horizontal lock. So depending at what angle he starts the shot, it's gonna stay like that. And, like, it'll stay horizontal, so you can tilt the camera this way or this way, and it'll still keep the horizon. I have no idea how that works, but for some things it's good, but definitely it's not the setting you want to have on for scuba diving. So I don't know if he noticed that or if he was just confused by what was happening. Look at that. That was, like, these are, like, eels that for some reason are, like, stuck in the ground. And I ended up seeing a bunch of these, and I still don't really understand why they're stuck in the ground. Is that a plant? Is that like remember Ursula and her little lost souls? Imprisoned souls? They look like that, and they seem like they're freaking out. And they're all coming out of the ground like that. It's very weird. This might be a lot too much scuba footage, but kind of the plan of these is that I would use like all the footage from the GoPro. So I took my GoPro with no footage on it, and I recorded sections and tidbits of my entire trip, and I basically filled up the GoPro. So that seems like a lot of footage, but it is for a month of living and existing in the Philippines. So I'm kind of just trying to like use up every bit of footage that I took, which might this is pretty cool, right? It might include some embarrassing footage, which it already has, kind of. Just like bad scuba diving. Right there he was telling the guy, the instructor, Joe, I believe, how much gas he had left. Or air. That's a cool shot. It's just unfortunate that it's in vertical. That actually looks really good. See, at this point we're close to the surface, so the colors look better. Everything looks more clear. The deeper you go, the shittier the footage becomes. This is pretty cool. Look, this is 2 big old turds. Short for turtles. And just such a... Look, these little... What kind of fish are those? I don't know. They're like dory fish, but yellow. I did see a lot of dory fish. And a lot of Nemo fish. And later on, you see some awesome stuff. Like I saw, and captured, like sharks and different kinds of sharks and what do you call that thing that eels and manta rays. That's what I was trying to think of. Manta rays. This is El Nido, by the way, on the island of Palawan, and this was the first place I'd ever scuba dived, and it's pretty amazing for a first place to ever scuba dive. But I end up going to many of the Philippines diving hotspots, and they're all different, and they all have different sea life and different types of things. That turtle is 400 years old, maybe. Probably not. Oh, look, it has like a clip on its thing. And I don't know what that is. Look, I have no buoyancy control whatsoever. So like, I didn't know at this point how to control my buoyancy. There's various adjustments you can make to your BCD, which is buoyancy control device, or maybe it's BCE, buoyancy control equipment, but you adjust that. You also like need to figure out how much weight you should have on your waist, and then it also all changes at different out depths, you know. That's a cool shot. So you kind of have to be, but then also your breathing is like, when you take an inhale, your buoyancy increases and you can float up. And when you exhale, it decreases and you float down. So like every little thing, you know, changes it and makes it. So all of that stuff is very confusing at first. And makes it difficult and makes you look kind of like an idiot. That's awesome. Very awkward, man. This is cool. This shot actually kind of makes sense to be vertical. I forgot his name, but I have him on Instagram. So that's one of the dive instructors. He was cool. He was a white. See those? About to sneeze. I don't know if you saw the that blue starfish. Oh, there's another one. Those are everywhere. This stuff was so cool. These like underwater mountains or whatever, cliffs. I'm also at this point, I think, very paranoid about not touching things and like not breaking parts off, because all the divers you talk to, like experienced divers, they're all obsessed with marine life, and they're all doomsday sayers about the decline of the reefs and the decline of wildlife and how we're killing all the fish and all the everything. So, and everybody tells you like, don't touch things, don't kick things, don't break stuff. Okay, that's it for this section. Tune back in for the next section. Thank you. Bye.